Okay, we're about to start.
Okay, we're about to start. We have our third team ready. So let me just set the time. We start.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Russell Cox,
I'm Rachel Davis.
Michael Chan.
I'm Bizali.
And Sam Schofield.
and we're the VPs of Strategy for Monsanto. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a look at this image. When I look at this image, I see strength and stability. I see a bold, robust block M. At the same time, I see devil horns and a sinister tail. This image represents a hard truth. And the truth is that there is no truth. There's only perception. Monsanto has a negative public persona. At the same time, our consumer base, our net sales, and bottom line continue to grow. In our unique position, the bad news is the good news. And Foresight views this as an opportunity. Now, there are three exigent factors that all multinational corporations need to consider when pursuing their global initiatives. Those are economic, environmental, and social. At your suggestion, our recommendations target the agricultural sustainability in Ghana through education. So to that end, we decided to create MATA, which is the Monsanto Agricultural Training School of Africa, to offer training and education for women and youth in contemporary plant diseases, nutritional science, crop development, and soil fertility. Now currently, Monsanto's philanthropic arm is done through the Monsanto Fund. And as admirable as those efforts are, we see them as both short-term and limited. To resolve that, we recommend the creation of the Monsanto Corporate Citizenship Alliance, the MCCA, as a shift from traditional philanthropy to a more corporate citizenship. Now, lessons learned from Walmart's P3 and JV initiatives in Bangladesh and Rwanda, respectively, have shown us the keys to sustainable success, and that is scalability with established local organizations. Monsanto's renewed commitment to CSR, and not just one-off philanthropic efforts, will establish long-term relationships that are economically, environmentally, and socially responsible, beneficial for all stakeholders. So now I'm going to pass it over to Rachel, who will expound upon Ghana's farming population and the impact of desertification on the agricultural environment. Rachel?
Thanks, Russell. So we're considering going into northern Ghana as a pilot to our corporate citizenship initiative. Africa contains 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. This is a major potential for economic development, for poverty reduction, and for food security within the continent. In Ghana alone, 1.2 million people are considered food insecure, and the majority of these people live in the north. Major threats to food security include poverty, drought, floods, lack of agricultural technology, and desertification. Desertification is a result of the savanna encroaching down into the northern forested area, and this is solely due to logging, to bushfires, and to inappropriate agricultural practices. These things combine to create a barren landscape, and where the soil cannot really absorb key nutrients that it needs to. So looking at farmers in Ghana, it's important to understand that it's been changing. There are 17 million farmers in Ghana, 7 million of which are women. And as far as food production goes, women represent approximately 70% of Ghana's food production workforce. This number will continue to grow as a lot of men are moving to cities for different types of jobs. And the loss of traditional agricultural labor is causing an absence of skills in the next generation of farmers. So it's really important to aim and prioritize an agricultural training of the youth between the ages of 15 and 24 that show interest in farming, as well as women that are taking over this. So I'm going to pass it on to Sam to describe how we're going into this.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. So to respond to the issues and opportunities that Rachel presented in the last section, we are proposing a multi-stakeholder alliance that will serve as Monsanto's pilot corporate citizenship initiative. This initiative will be based upon pre-existing agricultural development vehicles already operating in Ghana. Why are we choosing this approach? Basically, we feel that for a company of Monsanto's size, operating within a partnership framework where it has its own independence to operate its sub-initiative the way it feels is preferred to the traditional method of responding to a call for proposals for USAID. So we are basing the core mission of this alliance on 3 organizations' missions, their overlapping goals in social, economic, and environmental spheres. And these organizations are Feed the Future, a U.S. government initiative focused on agricultural development in the developing world. MIDA, which is the Millennium Development Alliance, which is a Ghanaian agency but jointly funded by U.S. and Ghanaian money. And both of these initiatives are funded and operated in part through USAID. And the last organization is Monsanto itself. Monsanto's own sustainability plan prioritizes the doubling of crop yields for staple crops in the developing world by 2030. So from the overlapping goals of these three organizations, we have created a mission for this alliance, and it is to work with rural stakeholders to improve the economic security, food security, and environmental sustainability, largely through agricultural education. So how are we going to implement this initiative? We have two objectives. The first will be to empower women in the agricultural workforce and youth ages 15 to 24 who are interested in entering the agricultural workforce. As Rachel mentioned, many women in the developing world lack the skills and training in agriculture as men increasingly migrate to the cities for jobs. And youth, they're going to be the next generation of farming, and they're also going to be the drivers of corporate values and priorities in the 21st century. And also, they're going to be the ones that are going to innovate the sustainable crops and growing methods that we need to feed a growing global population in this century. Building goodwill among the youth is critical to Monsanto's long-term success. The second step will be to work with these women and children that we train in farming methods to build better yields of staple crops, such as the cowpea. So this is the cowpea. It's a very popular legume in Western Africa. It's rich in protein, but it increasingly requires pest-resistant strains. Monsanto already offers a pest-resistant strain of the cowpea, and we believe that if these farmers are properly educated on the choices that they have to protect these crops and develop them sustainably, they may possibly choose our strain of the cowpea. So I'm now going to hand it off to Fizza to talk a little bit more about how this initiative is going to be implemented at both the grassroots level and at the institutional level in Ghana.
Thank you, Sam. So taking a look at our timeline, we have created a 3-year plan for grassroots education. In the first years, we are primarily focused on building a relationship with farmers and finding our key stakeholders. And also we're looking to establish and identify proper growth sites in Ghana. We will begin implementing new training initiatives with a focus on women and youth. Moving on in our timeline, you can see our metrics as seen above, and we plan to reach 50,000 Northern Ghanaians in this time frame. After this goal, we plan to implement MATSA, which is a farming institution in Ghana. But before I talk about MATSA, I'd like to discuss the cost with you. The cost of this 3-year plan will be $7 million. $6 million of this investment is dedicated purely to this 3-year plan, and that number we based off of Monsanto's competitor ADM. ADM has done this through different charitable contributions in the past. This donation will also be matched dollar by the USAID. And this last $1 million is coming from Monsanto directly as an investment to Matsa University. Initially, this is a plan for Northern Ghana, but if it is successful, we would like to take this 3-year plan and move it into different regions in Ghana. So moving on, this is a little more about our Matsa University. Matsa is based off of its 100-year culture of taking your legacy and creating it off of innovation as a tool of adapting to new times. Most farming households in Ghana do not have enough food to feed their families from 3 to 7 months out of the year. That's what we're here to improve. We're here to instill the grassroots farming and institute better farming for the 21st century. From this, Matsa is also offering certifications to different farmers to better help them succeed in economic success, and Michael will discuss that.
So why would I make any of these investments? Why would we make any of these investments into Ghana and Matsa eventually? Just as Russell mentioned, although Monsanto itself makes wonderful products, it has a very big misconception about its initiatives behind those products. And we believe that the root and the base of this is a lack of education and farmer training across the world. So we believe that with a vehicle for farmer training to support the basis of environmental, economic, and social changes, that we can better improve our image overall in the world, and that Ghana can act as a jumping point into all of Africa, into that 60% of land that Rachel had mentioned. The key to the success is the implementation of MATSA as well, in conjunction with that 3-year plan, where MATSA will show a commitment to the community and act as an institution different from the grassroots of the 3-year plan, to be there to support the community and advance the education and ultimately growing your customer base for Monsanto to be available to develop its products further and to disperse them as well within Africa as well. So with that being said, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you very much.
And that's gonna cost what?
So the initial 3 years, so this is 3-year cycle phases. We specifically targeted northern Ghana instead of attacking the entire country because we don't know yet how well it's going to do. It's an initial $7 million investment on Monsanto's end. $6 million of that is towards the 3-year plan and the grassroots education. That's the basic of your farming schools in the villages and such forth. And that money would be matched by USAID through MIDA and the other initiatives. The $1 million is the initial investment, if successful, into MATSA, which would be the institutional level to provide the certifications that FISA offered, so that the farmers can develop their tools from grassroots to actually the medium economic level to be a producer of a soybean or of the cowpea, and that they can better improve their economic standing as well as the environment and social as well.
It's a pretty bold initiative to sort of go outside traditional funding sources. Do you think, given what you talked about with our lack of respect for our corporate name, that putting our name right in front is gonna keep people in partner with us? Can you talk to the negatives of that?
Well, I think that's actually in part why we decided not to try and present our initiative within a consortium that's applying to a USAID proposal for 3 or 4 years. We thought it would be better for us to come to the table with money and human capital and say, okay, we know what Feed the Future is doing in Ghana. We know what MIDA has done. So I didn't explain a lot about MIDA, but they were started in 2007, and the first 5-year compact was 2007 to 2012, focused on agricultural development. So we could come and we could say, we know what you did under that 5 years with $500 million. This is what we think we can contribute in areas that you haven't reached yet, but still stay within the confines of the goals of that original compact, the goals of Feed the Future in Ghana, and any other NGO or multi-stakeholder initiatives that are in that country. So we thought it would be better to propose our own sub-initiative, our own money, our own human capital, but that stays within close relationship with the existing programs.
We also look at Walmart as the benchmark. Everyone who did the case had to look at Walmart as the benchmark. And Walmart showed that to be scalable, one-off efforts are good and they put that feather in your cap, but to be scalable, you should connect with an existing local organization. So MIDA being that existing local organization that's already aligned with USAID, we're forced to use USAID as well. So we saw we have to use USAID, we are Monsanto, and what's the third piece? And we stumbled upon MIDA, did some research on MIDA, and saw that there was already a connection there. Now we all we need to do is make the connection with them. And we have this agricultural love triangle that hopefully will be sustainable.
In addition, that these are 3-year short initiatives as well, but we're going towards a long-term goal and going away from the philanthropic end. That MIDA isn't just one example of an organization that's in Ghana. All 4 of these organizations are either in Ghana or Africa specific as well that align with the values that we're looking at. And this is just scratching the surface. So with the constraints of USAID and the long process to achieve it and the short-term goals that you have, it's not really an initiative for us to invest all our time and money to then change the vehicle the next year to have it to be discontinued. We'd like to have the control on that and to make the partnerships here with where we'd like to choose and have our name attached. And with this as the primary driver, we're supporting it too, because you need to know that Monsanto is making these efforts to improve the farmer education, to improve your level of what GMOs are, and how they can help sustain to how make better crops and crop yields as well.
Just a quick mention, so AATF is the African Agricultural Technology Foundation. I think in my section I mentioned the pest resistant strain of the cowpea. And so Monsanto did develop that, but it developed it with support from AATF. So that strain was developed, again, with African stakeholders and African Foundation to fit not just the needs, but also the expectations of farmers in West Ghana. So it's not some US-created pest resistant strain. It was developed on the ground in Africa to fit those needs. So,
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about this idea of matzah? So, as you have alluded, I think one of the big problems there is poverty and such, and mostly women are the ones who are doing the farming and men are away in the cities. So I see a problem. Is this going to be a brick and mortar type of institution, or is it something that is going to the communities themselves? Because if you have a locational type of brick and mortar institution, then it's very difficult for you to get people to come there, especially because of the poverty and such. They cannot take off from work.
No, I was going to say, so the purpose of the initial, we call it MCCA, but Monsanto Corporate Citizenship Alliance, the purpose of that 3-year cycle to start is to conduct experimental farming with women and youth at a very, very small scale to be able to see what kind of results we can get. See if crop yields are increased for the cowpea and corn. See how many women and youth we can train. So a typical way that NGOs will do this. I mean, my only experience with this is in Latin America, but what they do is they identify maybe 5,000 farmers that are interested in learning sustainable methods. But all they do initially is they establish maybe 100 pilot plots, very small plots on people's land. So it's only one person testing these crops, these staple crops with new agricultural methods, but there's another 500 people observing it and taking in all the information and seeing what happens. So that's sort of the purpose of our initial 3-year cycle, is to test and engage with 50,000 people essentially, to be able to demonstrate what we can bring to the table and what kind of promise there is in some other agricultural methods as opposed to slash and burn, what can be accomplished with pest-resistant and drought-resistant strains. And then that'll hopefully give us the justification for building a larger institution to attract people interested in more advanced farming from all over Ghana. But the 3-year cycle is really to test and build justification for a larger institution. I don't know.
And at the same time, MATA is a brick and mortar institution, physically located somewhere. But as Sam just mentioned, the 3-year cycle, that's for more of the grassroots within the villages. You can do it on a plot. But this cycle is proposed to be repeating, so that you still have that initiative on the grassroots to be there. But now we also have an institution established for better and higher learning, and then showing the commitment to the community as well for further growth. So say in year one, you only went to one of these initial plots, and you never went again, but you see them still around year 5, and you hear about Matsu University after it's been established for so many years, and you want to get your certification, or you think you can learn better, or your neighbor farm is doing this. You already have those plots still available to you as well, the small pilot plots through the 3-year plan, but you can also go to the institution to improve that learning further. And really with that kind of advancement of learning, it does need to be a brick and mortar institution, but we think running these in conjunction is what the key is to start to improve the Monsanto image as well. That we're still here on the grassroots, boots on the ground, and we're here, as you kind of know, as more of an institution as well, but we're doing both efforts.
Also understand that having a brick and mortar institution, we understand that there's an investment that needs to be made in, like you said, possibly transportation to get to that institution. So us doing a conjunctive effort with MIDA and MCC is a plus for another reason as well. MIDA and MCC joined forces with USAID for phase 1 of their initiative, and that was 2007 to 2012 with the 541.
And half of that funding was specifically for building.
It was actually more than half. It was $306 million of a $541 million budget. That was transportation and infrastructure. So we haven't not thought about how are we going to get these people to this brick and mortar institution.
We're on a minute. Any other questions?
So I guess just in summary, what we're really proposing here is that the issue with Monsanto in general, regardless of Ghana and Africa, is its public image, and that we do make the great products, but people aren't really known around the world, even here in the United States, about the benefits of our products and how the better practices that we've developed over the years as well. So that's why we chose to focus on farmer training, just because we believe that it's broad enough to take over all the topics as soil, desertification, and water, and that we can instill all those training tools into anywhere that we go, and then just kind of bring the level of education up about GMOs ourselves especially, and that they can just improve their own crop yields, improve their community, provide food security, and then just kind of bring up Monsanto together as well, and just improve that PR image at the same time. This farmer training is just really the key to what Monsanto's PR image is.
But it's time.